So welcome back to 2017. That may be a dream, but it's not a pipe dream. It's doable, it's already underway, and we have no intention of stopping. Wellington isn't the first city to undergo a radical remake, but luckily there are some fantastic examples of success around and we can borrow from them. Manchester was one of the ones we cited in the video. Manchester was the shock city of the early part of the Industrial Revolution. It was a city of firsts. The first steam-powered cotton mill, the first modern canal, the first passenger railway. It was where New Zealand's own academic Rutherford split the atom, where the first computer was built. It was where the labour movement was formed, and the suffragette movement too. And being a football fan, even more important, I'm pleased to say it was where the first football league was formed too. The city boomed in Victorian times, and was famous for creativity and dynamism. Manchester's speedy growth into a significant industrial centre meant that the pace of change was rapid, and it seemed like a place where anything was possible. New industrial processes, new ways of thinking, new groups of society sprouted up, hence the creation of the phrase, "What Manchester does today, the rest of the world does tomorrow." However, after World War I, the city went into steep decline, and that culminated in 1958 when the world-famous Manchester Guardian newspaper moved to London and became the plain old Guardian. That was a huge blow to the city. The decline coincided with significant centralisation of powers in the UK, the creation of the welfare state, the National Health Service, and more of the economic levers moved from the provinces to London and Whitehall. And in the early 90s, the IRA bombed the shopping centre in central Manchester. That was a really tough time for the city, but in some ways it was a silver lining too. It became a catalyst for change and provided opportunities to reinvent the city, and that opportunity was seized on by the local leaders. And since the bomb in the early 90s, there's been a 25-year progressive regeneration program, a new tram system, the largest housing development program in Europe, the hosting of the Commonwealth Games, which put Manchester on the European and global circuit. It involved 10 councils working together that make up the Greater Manchester Conurbation, forming a combined authority and jointly agreeing their growth priorities. When Greater Manchester signed a city region deal with government in 2012, it was the icing on the cake. And it was the start of a new part of the Manchester Renaissance, a devolution revolution. The deal included a revolving infrastructure fund that allowed Manchester to earn back up to $60 million a year of extra tax received by the government as a result of growth delivered in Manchester. Essentially, payment by results for economic growth. It also included an investment framework allowing Manchester to prioritise that earned back money with a single pot of European community money and central government money, all coming together. And one of the most exciting developments that occurred, and potentially the most rewarding, happened immediately after the failed referendum for Scottish independence. The cities of Manchester and the government signed that week a historic devolution settlement called Devo Manc, which expanded the powers to the local authorities on the city deal, giving them greater powers over transport, planning, housing, social care, economic development, and even health. A massive shift for a centralised country like the UK. It helped Manchester take more control over its own destiny. Devo Manc demonstrated how important timing can be and how you have to be bold and take risks. Time in this case was politically perfect, and for the supporters of Brexit, taking back control, there's now a strong part in the provincial parts of the UK to make sure that that goes to greater local autonomy and greater local control, not just to Whitehall. Now, back to Wellington. It'll be a lot easier to do a city region deal in Wellington than Manchester. Manchester's problems were far bigger and more complex than Wellington, and our opportunities are far greater. The timing is perfect to do such a deal in Wellington. We have a new government that's been talking in the run-up to the election about local authorities being able to access GST receipts and re-energising the provinces. We have an ambitious long-term plan in Wellington to transform the city, and a new mayor who wants to see Wellington flourish on a global scale and who understands what it will take to get there. Wellington City, with its neighbours, is looking to negotiate a city region deal with the new government to help deliver smart and sustainable growth for New Zealand Inc. We're not talking about grants and handouts. We're not going cap in hand to government with a shopping list. What we want are freedoms and flexibilities and the opportunities to use existing monies more effectively and to generate more growth. Our calculations demonstrate with the existing plans that will create an additional tax revenue for the government in the region of up to $3 billion over the next 20 years. And without the deal, that just becomes a one-off. So our proposal will be to ask for a proportion of that additional revenue back so that we can reinvest it through a revolving infrastructure fund, which will lead to even greater growth and consequential additional tax revenue for New Zealand Inc. Basically, the council has taken on the risk, and all we're asking for is a share of the upside that we help to create. That's not a big ask. However, this earn back is only one proposal we've included in the deal. We want to co-design the deal with government so that we're both, if you like, designing the house we're both going to live in. Another aspect is the creation of an urban development agency to help overcome Wellington's challenge of limited and fragmented land to provide housing and development for growth. We also want to look at property holdings around the port and the rail yards. There is no question that the property area of Centreport needs reinvention following the Kaikoura earthquake. This is an opportunity for Wellington, not a problem. We're currently working with the Regional Council and the government on a project called Let's Get Wellington Moving, and the first stage of the public consultation on that is about to be actioned in a few weeks' time. This will take a broad approach to solving today's and tomorrow's transport challenges in the city. It will involve huge investment in public transport and roading. Buses need roads too. It will mean a huge urban regeneration program to complement the transport changes. We want to unlock the CBD by reducing the number of commuter cars there and growing the city with more houses and commercial developments, particularly in the central area. We will also look at value capture options such as special levies and even road pricing, congestion pricing to generate monies to help pay for the investment. And as we build for an expanded population, we'll need a streamlined resource consent system. So we'll be interested to extend the sort of housing accord approach going forward, but we'd like to see much more emphasis on affordable housing, not just any housing. Now, I've talked a lot about infrastructure that we're building in Wellington. More tarmac, new pipes, new buildings, but there's more to life than just infrastructure. It's also about the people who live in the city, the people who catch the bus, drive the car, and walk to work. The people of Wellington are some of the most creative in the country, and to recognise this, the Mayor will be launching over the next year a decade of culture for Wellington. We already have the reputation of being a cultural capital, but we intend to cement that with an enhanced and coordinated program of events, festivals, art, music, theatre, street art, designed to highlight what makes Wellington unique. And you can have a taste of that this evening if you're taking a break from the conference. We have at precisely 7:54 on the left bank, just off Cuba Street, a performance by Recut, and I promise you it'll be worth it. Do try and get there. The Decade of Culture is one of many plans that could be amplified by a city region deal. And the whole point of the city-region deal is not to compete with other parts of the country. It's for New Zealand Inc. to compete with other parts of the world. So it's about generating additional GDP, not transferring it from one region to another. The city deal is not the be-all and end-all of what we want to achieve for the city, but it will allow us to take our vision that extra step and say, hopefully stand back and say, wow, we've truly transformed this city. It's been done elsewhere, such as Manchester and Barcelona and the other places cited earlier. It's exciting, and we're looking forward to the conversations with the new government. And I thought I'd end with the words from Loris Edmond, the poet, and her words are actually on the waterfront if you're walking down there. And I think it does say very much what Wellington is about. It's true you cannot live here by chance. You have to do and be, not simply watch or even describe. This is the city of action, the world headquarters of the verb. Manchester was the city of the possible in the early Victorian age. Our ambition is to make Wellington the city of the possible in the 21st century. Thank you for listening.